I don't know, again, my screen has gone off. I don't know why. The devil is fighting, but we are more than conquerors through Christ Jesus. Let me put it back. Thank you. As already mentioned, Tumuhamye Mrs. is my name. By God's grace, I work with Uganda Christian University as a lecturer, and I am a practicing copreneur. Copreneur is where you have or manage your own business with your spouse. So where you find that the boardroom is not different from the bedroom. Boardroom to discuss business matters is not different from the bedroom. You call yourselves copreneurs in terms of business. So by God's grace, my husband and Investments Limited. We do, as already mentioned by the one who introduced me, by the topic that was given to me is balancing between entrepreneurship and employment. Balancing between entrepreneurship and employment. Since the onset of coronavirus, which was in 2020, millions of people across the world were left without jobs. Of course, times became tough, and they are still tough, no matter who you are, whether you are a corporate or a non-corporate. You have been in one way or another struggling to provide for yourself and maybe for your family, or you have not been struggling, but maybe the way you have been getting what you've been getting is quite different these days. And unfortunately, the situation is actually beyond our control as individuals. It has been worsened by the current economic situation, which actually has brought more harm than good. And in such times where we find that there is persistent increase in prices, we find that even the salaries that we have, or the businesses that the personal businesses that we have, may not be enough to cater for both our needs and the needs of our family members. This calls, therefore, for us to strike a balance between employment and entrepreneurship if we are to successfully go through such hard economic situations. But first, I want to first explain the meaning of employment, because we have two key terms, employment and entrepreneurship. Employment is, of course, the state of having paid work, or you are working for someone and that person gives you money. It could be part-time or it can be full-time employment. Like the way I work with Uganda Christian University, as already stated, that is my full-time employment. I work from there 8 to 5, Monday to Friday. But sometimes I work on Saturdays if I am told to work a few times. And of course, there are some benefits of employment. Among them may include it helps you to keep busy, it challenges you and gives you the means to develop yourself, but also it gives you a sense of identity and personal achievement. You feel you identify yourself with a certain organization. Like a way I can proudly say that I work with Uganda Christian University as an educational and Christian institution. It also enables you to socialize and build contacts, because at the workplace, you're able to get different people from different backgrounds and you expand on your social network. But also it helps you build your skills and knowledge and abilities. But the most important among the things that happen is that it increases your happiness due to the sense of belonging to different organizations. Also, we need to understand what entrepreneurship is, because our topic being the balance between employment and entrepreneurship, and having understood what employment is, we need to know what entrepreneurship is. I can confidently say that entrepreneurship is the activity of setting up a business or businesses, taking on financial risks in the hope of profit. In other words, you want to be your own boss. You want to take up or to do a certain activity so that you are able to make your own profit. Meaning that you're not under someone, you are actually doing it either yourself or you have people working for you. So when you are called an entrepreneur, you are that kind of person who sets up a business or businesses and you take up those financial risks with the hope that you'll get a profit. But I want to let us know that we are hoping to get a profit, but sometimes we make losses. That is something that we need to put at the back of our minds. We need to also note that there are certain different things that we can venture into in terms of entrepreneurship. Somebody can opt to go into farming. Farming could be in terms of poultry, piggery, cattle rearing, crop planting. Then we can think of service industry. For example, somebody decides to do consultancy services, you do mobile banking services, you do transport services, like having maybe you have taxis or you have border business, etc. We have the manufacturing industry, we have the retail industry, where we can have the shops, the supermarkets. Then we have the wholesale industry, and here we can have the hardware, we can have agricultural produce, and very many others. So we can see that entrepreneurship basically makes you your own boss. You have faith in yourself, not in others. You believe that you also can. So entrepreneurship gives you the ability to have something to save, because you may not only rely on your employer to have something to put in savings, but it can also help you to rely on yourself to meet the basic necessities of life, such as food, shelter, and clothing. I want to begin by letting us know that as Christians, as Christian ladies logged on this evening, we need to know that 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 6 to 8 reminds us that godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain that we shall go out of it with nothing. But if we have food and clothing, we'll be content with that. Why am I mentioning such scripture at this particular time, before I even talk about the topic that was given unto me today? It is because oftentimes as Christians, we want to, when we go into entrepreneurship, when we go into formal employment, we want to accumulate too much wealth and we forget about God. But the Bible, according to Paul's letter to 1 Timothy, is reminding us that godliness is with contentment is great gain. We should look at things that we have to do to help us get the basic necessities of life, such as food, shelter, and clothing, without necessarily wanting to own the whole of Kampala or the whole of Mukono or the whole of Uganda, and you feel that you've reached there. No, we are mindful of the fact that we need to provide those basic necessities of life as Christians. Now, there are different entrepreneurs in the Bible. I want to talk about some of the female entrepreneurs in the Bible. One of them is the common Proverbs 31 woman. That Proverbs 31 woman had strong work ethic, according to verse 17. She made, and 24:31 in Proverbs. She made sound investments according to verse 16, and she was able to make a profit for her family according to verse 18. She was doing all this while raising a family and running a home. In other words, she was trying to strike a balance. We also see in the Bible Priscilla, the multi-talented businesswoman. She was a businesswoman according to Acts 18:1-3, because her together with her husband were actually working with Paul, make sure that they make the tents. She was an evangelist in Paul's ministry. He was a co-worker, according to Romans chapter 16, verse 3. He was a co-worker with Paul. And she was also a church leader, according to 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 19. What am I saying? She was a multi-talented woman. Imagine she's the wife. She has to do evangelism. She has to work with Paul. She has to do ministry in order to make sure that everything is done in accordance to God's will, meaning that she was striking a balance between different things. Lydia is known to be a successful businesswoman, and I imagine that there could be some men who could have logged on, and I opted to use an example of Apostle Paul to encourage a man who has logged on this evening, that Apostle Paul was a lawyer and also was involved in making and selling tents according to Acts chapter 18, verse 3. What am I saying? We are talking about balancing entrepreneurship and employment, not because it is something that has started now, but even people in the Bible did it, because Paul wrote so many of the books in the Bible, as we may all know. But in addition to doing that evangelism work, in addition to him being an apostle, he also was involved in tent making. I want to challenge a woman and a man who is out there and is thinking that the formal job that he or she is doing, that doing ministry alone is enough without thinking outside the box, like Paul also thought about having a business, like Priscilla was working together with her husband and Paul in tent making. So when employment and entrepreneurship are not well balanced, one might fail at the expense of the other. I've told you I'm a co-preneur. I work with my husband, and usually it becomes hard for me to say I did this in our business. No, because we do together. One might fail at the expense of the other. If I was concentrate on our business, there is a possibility that my job will fail. I must see how to strike a balance. There is a possibility that if I don't balance the two, I can have burnout, I can have fatigue. It can lead to health problems like hypertension, meaning that if you are doing business, side business, you are also having a formal job. Unless you strike a balance between the two, you are likely to be like this man who is bending because of what is happening in his life. He's failing to strike a balance. How then can we strike a balance between employment and entrepreneurship? One is that we need to set our priorities right. As women and as men, as human beings, we only have 24 hours in a day. Nobody has more than that. We have 7 days a week. Knowing the level of urgency and the importance of each activity you want to do daily is very, very, very important. Why am I saying so? When I say knowing the level of urgency and importance of each activity you want to do daily is very, very important. It is because the key is not to prioritize what is on your schedule, but the key is to schedule your priorities. I want to repeat that. The key is not to prioritize what is on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. Everything that you have on your list might be a priority, but the concern is, how do you schedule your priorities? At the workplace, for example, I've said I work with Uganda Christian University as a lecturer in the School of Business. We have a timetable. The university does a timetable. Like today, I have been teaching since 10 and I stopped at 6 p.m. in the evening. That is how the university made the timetable. I cannot put anything else during that time I am supposed to go to teach. Otherwise, I'll make more than 500 students allocated to me for teaching suffer. And at the end of it all, the output of UCU is likely to be affected because I didn't complete the syllabus. Meaning that if I'm to look at my personal business, I'll look at that time where the university has not put anything that requires my attention. Maybe after 6, that is when I can think of my things. Like now, between 6 and 7, I could have done something related to my business. Assuming I had a class now, I wouldn't have allowed to do what? To come and speak here. That is why I say the key is not to prioritize what is on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. Do you have a schedule of your priorities? Do you know what is important? Because there are those things that are important and urgent. They are very, very important. There is high level of importance. There is also high level of urgency. The concern is those ones require immediate attention. But are those things that are not urgent? Must you do them right? Plan your time. Plan your time. Be an organized person. Know when to do what. Sometimes you wake up in the morning and you do not know what you're supposed to do. You have your business there, you have your formal employment, but you do not know what you should do. The thing is, do you know what is supposed to be done? That's why I want us to talk about the 4 Ds of time management. For you and me to think of how to better manage our time. What can we do? We can use the 4 Ds of time management. 1 is do, 2 is defer, 3 is delegate, 4 is delete. Doing means it can be done. You have to do it there and then. Deferring means that it needs to be done. You can do it, but at a future date. You can defer or delay it. Other people call it delaying. So you may not necessarily have to do it now. Then delegating means that someone else can do it. We can do it for you. You don't have to do it yourself. Then delete means it's neither urgent nor important, and so you don't have to do it. So I'm going to explain briefly what these 4 Ds of time management, how these 4 Ds of time management can help you strike a balance between employment and entrepreneurship. Now, one of the Ds of time management is do, and I called it create a to-do list. As you may see on the presentation, I put a certain small diagram showing a to-do list, and I put 3 ticks, meaning that maybe I have done those 3 that very day and I'm done with them. So I have ticked them, other 2 I have not yet ticked them. So the tasks and projects with an approaching deadline must be on your to-do list. For example, if I am an accountant in a certain organization and today is 30th, I have to pay all the workers. What must I do? I am supposed to make it a priority. It is on my to-do list because it is very important and it is urgent given the fact that it is end of month. It also pay the workers in my own business. Remember, I have assumed that I'm an accountant in a certain organization, but I also own where I have workers. I also have put on my list that I have to make sure that I pay all of my workers in my business. I have to put it, they're all urgent. What do? I put it on my to-do list. I do the official job from 8 to 5. I ensure that everyone is paid because it's urgent and important. Then after, I will go to my part for my entrepreneurship in the evening. I make sure that I pay the workers. What am I saying? If it is end of month it is an emergency, it's a problem, it is very urgent and it is important, you cannot fail to do it. So you can strike a balance between entrepreneurship and employment by having a to-do list of certain things that are so important and urgent, both at work and in your business. Because if you don't do that, you end up doing those that are not urgent and also that ones that are not very important. Then the other thing that I want to talk about under that 4 Ds of time management is the defer, which I may also call delay. Now, when we talk about deferring, if a task does not have a deadline and can be done later, please, you can delay it. You don't have to do everything. You cannot use the little time you have to do everything. No, you can decide to delay some things. You may delay some things because it needs maybe more time and more money. And so you may need to come back to it. Meaning that by the time you opt to delay something, it is not urgent at work. It is not urgent in your business, but it is important. It is important, but not urgent. So I can do what? I can delay it. For example, as a farmer, my husband and I do farming. As a farmer, I can defer my annual leave to the period when I can defer or delay my annual leave to the period when I know that it is a rainy season, and so I can use it to plant it is a planting season, and so I can plant whatever I want. Or I can use it during the harvest time. I don't have to have it early January if it is a sunny season, meaning that there are certain things that are not that urgent, though they are important. Your annually, for example, it is important, but when you take it, it matters a lot. Then we have delegate. Delegate is get someone to do what you would have done yourself. People, let me tell you, you cannot do everything by yourself. You cannot be all-knowing. There are certain tasks that do not require your specific knowledge. So you can decide to do what to delegate them. For example, in our small organization, in our small-scale business, we have got workers and we have a chairman. Whenever we are not available, we tell the chairman, please do what? Do lead. We usually have every Saturday meetings, and we have a minatory coder, who in this case is a secretary. We tell them whether we are there or not. The chairman can lead. They write the minutes, and we come and we read them. We don't have to be there every time, assuming we have somewhere where we have gone. Someone else can take over. So we do agency banking, and maybe there is an issue, some money has gone, and we don't know where it has gone, because sometimes due to network, such things happen. I don't have to be there. The worker can connect with Centenary Bank on my behalf. I can connect with Equity Bank on my behalf, and they do the needful. I don't have to do everything. Meanwhile, I'm at my workplace and they're also doing my things. Why? Because what those activities are not very, very important, but they are urgent. They do not require my specific knowledge. And so I will be able to delegate them so that I'm able to concentrate on other things that seem to be urgent and very important. Then we need to learn to delete as ladies. Let me tell you, ladies, sometimes we want to get involved in everything, but I want to challenge us this evening. Ignore activities that are not related to your goals. Ladies, some of us are yes people. No, we have to learn to say no and practice it quite often. For example, if find somebody calls you and says, Comfort, you come and we go, there is some function here. It is morning and you want me to go in the afternoon. As if I woke up without a program. As if I didn't have a schedule of activities. Ladies, sometimes we have learned to say no. We have only learned to say yes to everything. I want to challenge us this evening that we need to learn to say no and practice it often. I want us to ask ourselves a question. What is eating up your goal achieving time? Could it be social events? Some of the social events, by the way, are not so important. You don't have to be in a party every time. You don't have to be outside. Weekend is a time when you're supposed to have time for your small scale businesses, because most of us work Monday to Friday. But you find that weekend, you're so busy that every weekend you're in a social event. Are they all important? Or some of them can be foregone. Let us learn to say no so that we can have time to concentrate on our small scale businesses when we are not at work. Understanding your rhythm. Those were the 4 Ds of time management. But other ways through which you can strike a balance between employment and entrepreneurship is understanding our rhythms. Now, what do I mean by understanding the rhythm? Understanding the rhythm, it is very important for you and me to know the times of the day when we work most and least. You need to ask yourself, when am I so active? Is it in the morning? Is it in the afternoon? If it is in the morning when I'm too active, then it is better for me to do what? It is better for me to go and concentrate on those that are very important and urgent during that time. Then when I'm performing during the hours when I'm least performing, it is better I go into those that are not that urgent. This will help you to allocate critical tasks during the time when you work most. Some of us have failed to strike a balance because we have failed to understand our rhythm as to when we work most and when we work least, so that we put more emphasis on the very urgent and very important things during such time. Leave work at work. I want to tell you people, with today's gadgets, it can be so difficult to truly leave your work at work. So especially for those of us who are working from home, especially if it is an online thing, you work from home. Like every Friday, I teach master's class from 5 to 9. And I have purpose that by 9:30, the latest, I must switch off my laptop. Why? Because you end up going into to research see what you're supposed to do. What am I saying? We need to set boundaries. It is not easy, but it is very possible. Know what time to leave work and go home to be with your family. Let me tell you, the jobs will go. I am sorry, I know my bosses are on call. They're hearing me. The truth is that I do not know when Uganda Christian University goal tells me that Comfort, go. I need to plan now for that time when they say go, so that I am able to have where to go. The moment I only concentrate there and I forget about my entrepreneurial activities, when they say Comfort, go, I'll have nowhere to go. That is the bitter reality that us the Christians have failed to take into consideration, that the jobs are there. Retirement will come. There will be a time when this organization will tell you, go. Where will you go? It is high time you learn to leave work at work. You strike a balance by also having time for your own businesses. You can set aside the weekend for the family and also for your business. utilize ICT or social media. What do I mean utilizing ICT or social media? Market your products on social media platforms instead of looking for clients door to door. Sometimes you take a lot of time looking for people door to door. These days, ICT has simplified everything. You can decide to market your product. You can create a WhatsApp group for your business staff. For example, we have a WhatsApp group for our workers, and should I want or my husband want to communicate anything or they want to say anything and we are in class, they just send and we shall respond at any given time. Utilize such ICT or social media platforms so that you are able to do those things that you wouldn't have done if ICT was not there. I am glad Church of Uganda is meeting online like today to sensitize and build the capacity to help the future generation. I want to also say that as we strike a balance between employment and entrepreneurship, we need to trust and depend on God. People, we need not to trust God can do wonder. You know what? We are God's handwork created in Christ Jesus, and He has given us the abilities that we pray. 5:17. Believe achieve what we want. That we shouldn't, for the Lord is with us, our God. He will give us the strength to strike the balance between entrepreneurship and employment. And you know what? He's going to uphold us with His righteous hand because we are His children. So I want to encourage someone who is fearing that he cannot manage a business, he has failed to manage the business. Trust and depend on God. But as you try to strike a balance, members, I want us to know that we need to work hard. There are two ways of getting money. It's either inheritance or hard work. Today I've told you I have taught since 10 and I stopped at 6 and 7. I had to come here. It is not a bed of roses. It requires you to work hard if you're to strike a balance. After this talk, I shall have to balance the things for our agency banking and mobile money, meaning that I'm not going to just sit. It requires hard work. And there are 3 perspectives of work. Working with your hands. I must use my hands because God has given me special abilities to make sure that I become whom He wants me to be. I will use my soft and hard skills that the Lord gave me to do what I'm supposed to do. As you can see on that double cabin, I don't know whether you're able to see it. On that double cabin, it was during lockdown when I was off-roading the double cabin of Matoke with my husband because we were not, we had prepared our small banana plantation, and that is where we are picking bananas for sale. What am I saying? The jobs were not there at that time. Those who work with Uganda Christian University know that there is a period during lockdown when we were not being paid, but you had to survive. What am I saying? Please strike a balance. You do not know how tomorrow will come. As I said, I do not know when I will leave you, so it can be tomorrow or after 1 month, but where am I going? I must work hard now because I require to, I also need to ensure that I fall in love with what I do. To strike a balance between employment and entrepreneurship requires you and me to fall in love with what we do. In other words, the will with our hearts. What do I mean? When you do a business that you don't love, there is a possibility that you are likely going to give up when you get challenges. But when you love that something, it is going to continue being worked on because you love it. Wisdom from the head. As you work hard, you should make sure that you use wisdom from the head. Use your brain to think outside the box, because if you get challenges as you strike a balance between employment and entrepreneurship, are you going to give up? Think outside the box. Can you get some people to seek advice from? Can you think of doing something that is easier for you than that you're doing that is quite hard for you? Or if at all it is hard, can you seek for assistance from other people that have done it before? And you know what? Working hard is something that God also did, and Noah, remember Noah built an ark and it helped his family. And you know what? In 2 Thessalonians chapter 3 verse 10, they say when you don't work, you don't eat. So working is both at our formal jobs and informal jobs, but also at our level as entrepreneurs. As I end, I want to conclude with these 3 pictures. One is about all in the mind. The other one is about the heart. And the other one is about your hands. All in your mind. In other words, it begins with your mind. If you say, I cannot strike a balance between employment and entrepreneurship, it won't happen. it also goes in your heart. Have you fallen in love with the fact that you have to do both if you're to survive and provide for the basic necessities of your family, as said in 1 Timothy 6:6-8? If yes, then you need to love what you are doing, both at work and at your business. But you also need to utilize those skilled hands that the Lord gave us. And I am always motivated by what Philippians 4:13 says, that I can do all things through him who gives me strength. That is my best Bible verse. Why do I say so? I happen to have worked in 4 universities at the same time for a period of 5 years. I sat with my husband. As I conclude, I know time is not on our side. I sat with my husband, we agreed, and he said, it is okay, Comfort, you've been headhunted, go and work. He gave me a go ahead. I worked in 4 universities at the same time for a period of 5 years. We agreed, let's use 5 years. After 5 years, as we will have achieved what we want, and then we do other things. I was working in 4 universities. We had a business. I was a mother of 4 boys. At that time, actually, we had 3 boys. And I also was a wife. But I managed. Why? It begins with your mind. It begins with your heart. It also begins with the ability to utilize those hands that the Lord has given. Things through Christ who gives me strength. Other people have done it. They are not any special. They are not any special. We were all created in God's image and likeness. And so they have done the balancing of employment and entrepreneurship. You can also do it. So I want to end by letting us know that we all can do things through Christ who gives us the strength. May the Lord bless you.
The good Lord bless you, Mrs. Tumuhamye. I am sure along with the rest, we are truly grateful for such a lovely evening. We bless the Lord who has endowed you with such wisdom. And we bless the Lord that you also yield to the work of the Holy Spirit within you, and that you have loved him with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And it is on that note that you are able to share such wisdom that comes directly from the throne of the Lord. We bless the Lord for you. A few questions, Mrs. Tumuhamye. Question number 1. What key principles have you placed before you that have enabled you to work peacefully with the beloved of your youth?
Thank you so much, Susan, for your question. What principles that are before me that have helped me work with my beloved of my youth, that is my husband? We have all agreed that we don't be taken up by events. What do I mean? We schedule our activities. That is why it will be hard, Susan, for you to call me and you tell me, Comfort, I would like you to come and talk to my fellow women. I know you love something about saving and investment, so come and talk to them tomorrow. I will tell you, I will first check the calendar. Why am I insisting so? It is because I will not agree with you on something that I have not agreed with my spouse to do. But above all, the schedule itself has to be checked. We have a calendar, it is in our bedroom. When the year starts, we buy a calendar and we keep noting. On Sunday, we shall do ABCD. On Tuesday, we shall do ABCD. When the university timetable comes out, I make my own timetable based on what the university has done. Then I print out, put it, we have where we put in our, okay, there's a certain place where we put, and my husband sees what I am supposed to do on a daily basis. Like when I am teaching, like, he will not call me because he knows that I'm teaching. We have also put a WhatsApp group for the 2 of us. It is funny, but we have done it. We have a WhatsApp group. When I'm entering out of the class at around group, what am I saying? We keep each other regularly accountable to what is happening in each other's lives. It is not easy for someone to convince me that Comfort, come and do this, and I come to do it when it is not on my schedule. I have to think before I do it. That has given me the peace that I can say surpasses human understanding.
Thank you very much for that well-answered question, Mrs. Tumuhamye. Another one, at what point as a Christian does wealth hinder one's true and spiritual worship of God? At what point as a Christian does wealth hinder?
Beg your pardon, Susan, on that question?
My question is, at what point in life, in the life of a Christian, does wealth hinder the true and spiritual worship of God? When do you begin to notice that, you know what, I think my wealth has come in between I and my God?
By that time, as a Christian, you begin to go to business and you fail to go to, by that time, for example, failing to even attend family overtaken you. Accumulate or to get everything. We are here to meet the basic necessities of life, as I said, according to 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 6 to 8, that clothing and food are the most important for us. There we shall be content in Jesus Christ. So the moment you realize that you want to accumulate a lot, then it becomes a challenge. You want too much. You have the basic necessities of life, but every time you are in money, you're not concerned about, have I grown spiritually? Have I attended a fellowship? Have I gone to church? Have I helped the needy? Or I am just concerned about myself. The moment you begin that, the moment that one begins to happen, just know your spiritual